Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you may be in the world. I'm Sarah Jane. This is Gift of Healing TV, and I'm delighted to be joined by Lisa Vunk, who is going to be sharing with us shadow work, reclaiming your lost life force and spiritual sovereignty. Lisa, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. I've been waiting for this. We've had a few goes at it. Finally, we get to the universe agrees, even though it's now Mercury retrograde. Go figure.
Well, but isn't that just the joy of technology, of the universe, of divine timing? Things happen as and when they are meant to.
Absolutely.
Let me introduce Lisa to you. Lisa Vunk is a spiritual awakening facilitator, conscious evolution coach, healer, social and spiritual activist, change agent, co-host of Conscious Caffeine Radio, and author of the upcoming book, Transcendence Dawn. She is grateful to have survived her path to be here in this transformational time, in these transformational times. Lisa utilizes a panoply. I've been trying to get my tongue around that word. Sorry, folks. Of healing modalities, including shadow work, stories as medicine, breath as medicine, and vibrational medicine in her practice that she tailors to each individual's needs. She loves assisting and educating her clients on how to awaken the healer within and transcendence their challenges into forgiveness, empowerment, gratitude, and the gift that is hidden in the challenge. Lisa has a special place in our heart for those who are victims of emotional abuse and sexual trauma, especially in their formative years. Our greatest powers lie in self-love and our sexuality, so it is imperative to heal our wounds in these areas in order to access deeper levels of life force, communication, connection, and creation in all our relationships, not just sexual ones. Lisa's mission, which she is passionate about and dedicated to, is the re-education, healing, empowerment, and inspiration of humanity, resulting in conscious co-creation with unity consciousness. She sincerely wants to help us all forgive ourselves, laugh at ourselves, support each other, and consciously co-create a magnificent new earth. Lisa refers to herself as a spiritual rainbow warrior goddess of the light, who wields a mighty sword of truth and justice and magical wand of healing, here to serve in the revolution of love.
I'm going to summarize that, baby. Thanks for shorten that.
Lisa, welcome to the program. Thank you so much for joining us and for the patience because of all the technical bits that have gone on both ends, I probably think.
Yeah.
So please share a little of your story so that folks can get a feel of, because it's how you come to do what you do. I don't know about you, but with majority of us, it's our own healing journey that's led us to where we are. So please share a little of your story.
Absolutely. It's funny. It never ceases to amaze me how many people, when I start talking to them and they ask me what I do and I say I'm a healer, they think that us healers are just born on the planet like all filled with love and light and everything's perfect and we always know what to do and never had any challenges. Far from the story. And it is really important because I found even as a healer helping others, a big part of their healing process is where they really find what it is they came to do. That's the gift. Our challenges lie our gift. And we really find out what we came here to do and share with our fellow humans that really need all the help we can get right now. So just a bit about me. I grew up on a very tiny island called Martha's Vineyard and off the Cape Cod of Massachusetts in New England in the United States. It's a very, very small island in a small community. It's gotten a lot more notoriety as I grew up and into my adulthood for its capacity as a summer resort, especially to the rich and famous, like the Clintons and the Obama and George Soros and the various, Hollywood elite that go there. However, I grew up in very fertile soil to become a healer. I grew up in a family. My mom actually had me out of wedlock and gave me away to the nuns, and then somehow was able to still take me back at 5 months. I know that would never happen these days. And then married my stepdad when I was 1.5, who raised me as my dad. But it was very fertile soil, as I said, for growing up as a healer, because I was born out of wedlock. She was Catholic. That was a very bad taboo. I was a bastard. There was a lot of guilt and shame. And in our family, there was a tremendous amount of poverty consciousness, abuse, all kinds, sexual, emotional, physical, alcohol, and alcoholism and the resulting abuse, and all kinds of poverty consciousness. So it really was, there was a huge family on my mother's side, 14 and 15 brothers and sisters on my grandparents. And there was, as I said, there was a lot of sexual abuse within the family. And unfortunately, they were an immigrant family that had come over and basically were like the slaves to the wealthy summer elite that was coming then. And it was very different when they were a child. But when I came back to that family, it then went on forevermore. I was the scarlet letter of my mother. And I was in a very kind of a waspy kind of community, which means, upper middle class. It's not like the city where there's such class stark differences in income, because the vineyard is vineyard casual. It doesn't matter, you're on the vineyard. But at the same time, both my parents worked. I was raised mostly by babysitters in the summertime. And my mother, because of her experiences growing up, was very closed down. She was very much a narcissist and emotionally broken. And we were in a power battle from day one. I was very gifted as a child. I could see things before they happened. I had precognitive dreams. I was very clairsentient, claircognizant. This was way outside her spectrum as a Catholic, who actually was more of an atheist who was just raised Catholic, who never really questioned her belief systems. I was the only child of my biological father and my mother, and I had a sister and a younger brother, but I never really fit in. I was very smart and I was gifted. As I said, I was very painfully shy, and overcame that by the time I was in my teens and had some very extreme experiences. I tried to run away by the time I was 15 a few times. Eventually got into drugs and alcohol. I was raped 3 times by the time I was 20, including at college. And even though I graduated in the top 1% of the country and the top 100 students had not even applied for college by the time it was Christmas vacation of my senior year. But I managed to go on to college, not very long. So many wonderful and awful things happened to me. As I said, I had been raped 3 times by the time I was 20. I then tried to go to the 12-step programs for a few years and kind of balance myself. And that's when I found meditation and yoga for the first few times. And I went back and forth over my life for the next 10 years, really lost, going between trying to get some healing and trying to figure out who I was. And over those years, I dropped out of school. I modeled for a while. I was actually sent out to be sort of a supermodel back in the days with the first models like Cindy Crawford and that kind of thing. But I thought I was fat and ugly, and even was found by the photographer like 20 years later. What happened to you? And I ended up blowing that off and stopping for lunch in Vail, Colorado, and becoming a snowboard and ski bum for years. I then went on to be a private chef and caterer, had life like everybody else back on Martha's Vineyard. And when I was in my 30s, I'd been raped a few more times. I had got into the raw foods as medicine for my clientele in the vineyard, wondering why these people were paying me $75 an hour to lightly steam broccoli or prepare only raw foods and in specific combinations for the money and the talent that I had. But when I was about 36, I found myself pregnant after being told I was sterile and not being able to have children. And I had what I call the immaculate conception with my son, Damon. And that started the biggest healing process and transformation in my life. By the end of my pregnancy, he had almost been delivered by accident early and died. I had fallen into a few times and had a severely traumatic pregnancy. I was extremely toxic. My body weight, by the time I delivered my son, I was a size 22 and 255 pounds, and I was size 4 the day I got pregnant. My son almost died of the Hep B vaccine at birth, although I hadn't really got into the information yet. I had gone to school for genetic engineering and had a strong biochem background and always followed up on it. But this whole metamorphosis started with my son, and it started with us both almost dying. And I was taken under the wing by a chiropractor who I had known as a child, who had helped me reverse chronic eczema, which is interesting. We'll get it back to that because I'm actually experiencing a healing crisis of that now. And I haven't had it in almost 40 years, or 30 years, over 30 years. And he brought me into his wing and shared information on nutrition and helping people reverse cancer for many years, over 20 years. And he even had a form 28 pages long at the time, just to be able to see him, to make sure you weren't a member of the USDA trying to shut him down, or the FDA, because they were heavily seeking out. They are now, but not you. You weren't under the fire back then because there were so few back then of people actually trying to help people heal from cancer or autism or AIDS or all these things we're taught that are lifelong diseases that we can't evade, that are attacking humanity. But it goes on and on and on. And I fell into my role as a healer. And without going into it, because it's quite a long story, I eventually had a Kundalini awakening. And after doing food as medicine for many years, I realized that the people that had addressed and had the courage to find what they needed to change their whole life, and how they look at it, and what they put in their body, and what they put in their minds, and the people they surround themselves, and what they choose to do for a living, and how they spend most of their hours in a day, that even when they had the courage to do that, that they would only go to such a point if they hadn't addressed repressed emotional trauma in their life. And sometimes it's not even from this life, but that's shadow work, what we hide from ourselves and others, and especially from ourselves. But even when we do it subconsciously, it traps in and holds so much of our life force to lock it in and not address it, to keep it hidden in that closet that no one wants to look at, or that stampeding herd of elephants that we want to pretend is not in the room with us. So I had my Kundalini awakening. I was guided through meditation to rearrange my whole practice, and slowly over years, and many more traumas we won't go into now, I've quite earned the right to not teach people to dance in the rain or hold their hands so much as I really teach people to surf tsunamis. And I go into some of the darkest stuff, and I help them hold space and revisit it in order to allow it and make space and get the sense and the lesson that they're supposed to from it, and help them take back their life force and find out what it is they came to do in this world. As we're in these huge transformational times, every one of us, I don't care who you are, even if it's just breathing, is holding space for your own personal transformation and healing that you gift to the collective. So every one of us has something to share and heal. And that's pretty much it in a very extreme nutshell. But yeah, my story is quite unbelievable, and I've broken it up into a series of memoirs. It's a trilogy that only goes to my Kundalini awakening. So we can switch off of my story and kind of go to what we want to do with people. But you can say I'm very well qualified for being a shadow worker on Earth at these times.
But I think that's just it, isn't it? We've got information. Sorry, I've got a feedback loop going on. I hope it doesn't affect people the way it's affecting my hearing. That's just it. It is diving deep into ourselves and finding ourselves and healing those aspects that we've buried rather than dealt with. And so I think you've sort of touched on this in what you've said, and it's what is shadow work. But that in a nutshell is it, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the shadow is the things that we've rejected in ourselves, things that we judge ourselves. Sometimes we don't judge them ourselves consciously, but they're beliefs we've picked up about ourselves from our experience growing up with our parents or our culture, our religion, in school, our friends, our first lovers, our experiences. And we start to tell ourselves stories like, when I was little, I told myself I was fat and ugly and I had absolutely no worth and no one was ever going to love me. That I was bad. I heard I was bad all the time. So that even when I was, in my early 20s and I was gorgeous and I was modeling and earning a living and actually picked to be one of the first it girls, I had no concept that that was anything of actual. When I looked in the mirror, I did not see what everybody else saw. Even when I looked at the pictures, all I saw what was wrong with them. And I really thought I was dumb and ugly. And I had no self-confidence, no self-esteem. I learned very early on in my family that, from them, that we treat our family worse than anybody else. And we don't let anybody else know what goes on. And we hide all our secrets and we hide everything from people. And we don't talk about the truth. That's what I was taught. And it didn't work very well for me. It didn't resonate with me in my soul. And even in my family, of course, I became the black sheep. But it became very obvious later on. My mother had me diagnosed bipolar at 29 when I had split up from my fiance at the time, and I was very depressed. And she was working for the Department of Child and Families, which actually the Department of Children and Families, which is CPS or DSS back then. And they were teaching her to, when people had emotional problems, to take them to a psychiatrist, get them diagnosed and put them on pills, and that would fix them. So she had me taken to the doctor who created the disease, ADHD, talked to me for 10 minutes and put me on 420 milligram Ritalin, a very strong psychotropic that we now know makes people either kill themselves or kill others, commit suicide or aggressive behavior in sensitive individuals. And within 3 weeks, I tried to eat a bottle and then was diagnosed bipolar. So I fell into all of what I call the mental health prison system and really was taught even more as an open book and trustworthy that I had this disease and I was broken and all these things were me, and bought it hook, line, and sinker. So I really went in depth, and I was a guinea pig for all the pharmaceutical companies for many years, until I actually came to realize and find myself through all of that with the luck of a really good old school psychologist who was anti-big pharma, that all of it was a crock, that all those pills did was make me feel worse and make me feel like shit and deny everything. And I felt like an elephant sat on my happy button. And I decided that the only way out was through, and that I wasn't so ugly and I wasn't so awful. And my mother was devoid of compassion. So it was funny because she was always wondering where mine was for her. But the shadows is where, when I got to my darkest hours and my darkest days, is where we decide to either give up or pick ourselves up and go again. And it's really hard the first time. It's even hard the first 10 times. I won't say it's still easy by any means, but it gets a lot more routine. And you learn that no matter what happens, you have what's inside you and that you're worthy and that this is happening for a reason. And it's either for you to reclaim a piece of yourself or for you to get a gift to help somebody else, or to, and in this case, these times, it's also about, like I said, not just our lives or our past lifetimes if we have them, but our ancestral lineages. So it's not just like if you've had a perfect life, that doesn't mean you don't have some shadow work to do. If you've gone to school, got the career, got the family, got the American dream that they talk about, and you're really on the ball in your life, and you feel like you're alive and you're doing everything you want and you want more, you want to live more, you're not questioning, oh, I have all these things and why am I not happy? Why do I not feel fulfilled? Then you most likely have some ancestral shadow work that will be arising its head. So it's something we all need to take a look at. Your life does not need to be not functioning to be able to do shadow work. Unfortunately, most people don't want to look at what they hide from themselves or others. And most people, at least in the Western societies, wear what I term an ego mask, which is this mask we put onto the world. This is me. This is what I look like. This is who I am. And you're going to agree that this is who I am, or I'm not going to be your friend, or I'm going to pretend you don't exist, or I'm going to deny the fact that you exist or attack you like the plague. So people have various different levels that they're open to their shadow work, but really when it comes down to it, everyone runs from it. And I find most people, as a result of either something really not working in their life, some kind of severe tragedy, or some people just start to have memories when it's time for the healing to come up, or dreams, and don't really know what to do with them. So shadow work has many facets and many phases and many levels, and none of it's fun. So it's not really a popular thing to be doing, especially a lot of people who actually have the courage and seek me out. When we start to get down to the root, they'll bolt for about 6 months or so before they can digest being actually ready to face their darkness. And it's really only our own power that we fear, because it's our power kept from us that we're facing, which is built behind that fear. But it's really intimidating, and it never gets easy. You do eventually start laughing at it, but you're still like, oh my God, am I going to get through this? Excuse me.
Oh, I
As
think,
coming through as well.
yeah. I think with that though is what I've found is no, it's not easy, but oh boy, do you feel alive once you've done it? And I think it's okay. Don't concentrate on the feelings you're going to have while it's happening, because no, that can be very uncomfortable. But more to the point is look to the outcome and know how much better you are going to feel, the weight that lifts off your shoulders, the lightness of life, the how much easier it is to put a smile on your face, and for that smile to actually hit your eyes. Yeah. And how much you find that actually, do you know what? That stuff's their stuff. I actually don't need to take that on board anymore. And your life becomes so much calmer, so much easier, because we've talked before and we're very much on the same page. We've reconnected with an aspect of ourselves that we had disconnected from. And this is what you said, reclaiming your lost life force. Because when we cut off that aspect of ourselves, I've got in trouble for doing that. That part of me is not liked. I'm going to push it out of the way. I'm going to put it behind a brick wall or behind a locked door or whatever you want, whatever terminology you want to use. It's an aspect of yourself you've shunted out of the way. And it's an aspect of yourself that really should be a part of you. It was that individual's stuff. It had nothing to do with you. And that's what we don't understand when we are younger and before we step into the power of understanding that we have power within us. And it is totally right for us to be true to ourselves, regardless of what other people think, providing, of course, we're not hurting other people deliberately.
Of course. And unfortunately, when we get into shadow work, part of reclaiming our personal power, and that's why I call it our spiritual sovereignty. Sovereignty is dominion. It means I claim full responsibility for all I do, all my actions, all I say, and all I've done. And I'm not just an activist for spirituality by any means. I get into the details of 3D and all the satanic pedophiles and blah, 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 blah. You don't need to really go there, but that's our collective shadow work. So I do our collective shadow work as well, but it's about reclaiming our personal power. And when we don't have all our power, or even enough of it, everybody gives their power away. That's why we have structures like government and monarchies and the status quo, the news, the pundits that tell us what to do and listen to your doctor, don't listen to yourself. When you have dominion over yourself, you do not give your power away. And you make choices and you choose to act even when you feel fear. That's courage. The difference between bravery and courage, when you're brave, you're feeling fear, but you're like reacting in the moment. You're not choosing to act. You have no consciousness of what it is you're doing. The car lands on your child. You pick the car up. You didn't think about it. But courage is choosing to feel that fear, knowing and honoring that fear, and choosing to act anyway. And there's a very big difference. And when we take that power back, we don't give our power away to others. And we are able to not only attach or take on other people's emotions and wait and be their welcome mat, we also reclaim and being in denial and being able to hold ourselves accountable for choices that we've made that we realize we could have made a better choice. But at this time, this is where you get into mistakes and lessons. You know, there are no mistakes other than doing the same thing over and over again when you know what to expect. But 95% of humanity at this time, I believe, on this planet will choose known, what they call a comfort zone, known trauma, uncomfort, and pain and suffering, because it's familiar, over the courage and risk to try something new and different that they don't know what it is. So it's really important to claim our spiritual sovereignty, because that's otherwise we're in our ego, and we have our divine feminine and our divine masculine. Our divine masculine is our ego. Unlike a lot of spiritual gurus or teachers or wisdom keepers that might teach about eradicating your ego, I do not agree with eradicating your ego. It's what our soul and our higher self chose to be our perfect avatar in this lifetime and to have certain experiences. And to get rid of it, you're not safe. These are the people that only focus on the light, or, you know, they pretend there's no darkness in the world, or they just sit there praying while the stormtroopers, you know, police are coming in and shooting guns. You need your ego. However, when you're cut off from source and that spiritual sovereignty, knowing your immortal conscious self, which is what we are, we're the watcher, we're the entity or the consciousness behind our ego. When you cut yourself off and you're just your ego is like a 3-year-old toddler at the wheel of a Mack truck with a cement block on the gas pedal, no power steering, aiming for a field of kids watching a movie facing the other way. It's going to run into all kinds of trouble. And then most people just get so busy and caught up in life now, doing what they think they're supposed to do to have a good life or be successful or be happy. You know, go to school, get the job, get the career, get the husband, get the family, get the whatever. They're in their midlife, or what we call midlife now anyway. And they're like, why aren't I happy? Because they gave all their power away. They never questioned their beliefs. They never questioned, you know, who am I? Why am I here? And we are so distracted from asking any of these questions and cultured and socially engineered out of it. So we have become a very weak culture, especially in the US or any of our progressive English colonized, shall we say, since you're in the UK, but it's the same in Canada and South Africa and any of the other countries that are progressive, a lot of Europe. We're in culture that we are what we do for a living and how we earn money, you know, and everything else is giving pat answers in movies and films, but there's no room, if you follow their protocols to be a successful person, to have a life or find out who you are, you know, never mind if you're living by your own rules. And only when things go wrong, whether we get dis-ease physically, mentally, emotionally, or spiritually, dis-ease is a symptom that we're out of homeostasis and we're not where our soul wanted. So our higher self is our divine feminine, our immortal self. You could call it your spirit or your soul or the seat of your soul. And they're meant to be together. And your ego is meant to serve. I work with promoting, reclaiming all our dark parts that the ego doesn't want to look at. No, I'm not. Oh no, I didn't steal from my friend. Oh no, I didn't. It hides the guilt and shame. We reclaim those pieces and we forgive it and we promote it to our director of integrity for our higher self. And now all of a sudden this ego that was this evil, cruel, judgmental, critical parent bossing us around and never giving us a break, it now has an important job, the most important, where to put your energy, where to put your time, where to put your love, when to use your mind and when to use your heart, because our heart actually has far more intelligence than our brain. This has been proven by a wonderful group called the Heart Math Institute I've been following for years. The science backs it up now. It's no longer just woo-woo stuff. But it's very important that we reclaim our spiritual sovereignty, and we do that by reclaiming all the parts that are guilted and shamed and denied by our ego. Our higher self doesn't judge those. They know that's just a story. It's the video game avatar we joined in. And it's not that it's not our work in this lifetime. Some of the work can be difficult and some of it can be amazing. At the same time, you can never get to heaven. You can never get to that zone without going through it. I do believe there are some children being born on the planet now that may have that experience, but it's not for anyone who's most likely 18 or over in any way, shape, or form now. We haven't evolved enough yet. But ironically, as a spiritual awakening facilitator, and all I mean is someone who's trying to get in touch with who they are and awaken to who they really are and what they came to do, it's also about supporting people who are going through religion or various dogmas or teachings. There is an appropriate path. I don't practice religion at all, but I have and studied them. And I see their value for coming back to who we are. The only religion I might attach myself to is Gnosticism, which is about reconnecting from the divine within, or Sufism, which is just another aspect. But it's ultimately about awakening our Kundalini, which I had in 2010, and I've had many rounds of and just had another round of. So if you think as a healer or a spiritual awakening facilitator that we ever get to stop doing our work, forget about it. Most people, when they hear just one round of what happens with Kundalini for me, never mind what's happened for 8 times, don't know how I got through it. But I get better at it, and I still keep a smile on my face. And we even were able to do a show during it. My show. So it's really important to take back these parts of ourselves that we've denied or ignored or have too much guilt or shame to look at, so that we reclaim all of our life force, so we can redirect it in the direction our soul and spirit meant to. And once you have that connection, you can't ever go wrong. Even if something bad happens to you, that's a lie. There's a big lie. Only bad things happen only to bad people. Bullshit. Just as you step into the light and really pick up your spiritual warriorship, you get faced by much bigger levels of darkness and tested on a much deeper level. That's not true necessarily to an extreme for everyone, but most definitely it is true in some form. Everyone has their own choreography. Did you pick a B movie where everything's kind of okay and one big thing happens in your life? Did you pick a drama where it's like All My Children, or some movie where nothing ever changes and it's always a mess, and then finally there's a little peace at the end? Did you pick the hero's journey, where it's filled with really good things and really bad things and really good things and really bad things, and you get things and you lose them over and over again, and then finally somewhere down the road you get some peace? Did you pick a comedy? Everybody's avatar picked their own choreography for this lifetime, and we have no right to judge anyone else for their experiences or for their choice of their pathway. And by doing our shadow work and we forgive ourselves and we reclaim ourselves, the parts of ourselves, we find the capacity to forgive others. And then we can find our compassion and truly forgive. Because giving lip service to forgiveness is not forgiveness. And believe you me, I got a rash all over my heart chakra, up through my neck, which is why, because I am literally at the heart chakra of Mother Earth here in Glastonbury, UK, where I've been for months, working on much deeper levels of my own healing, as well as my ancestral lineage, which is a mess. But I chose it. I'm not a victim, and I did it for a reason, and I wouldn't change it for the world, no matter how awful. And I've had some awful, awful, awful things I've gone through. The beautiful ones that come as a contrast to that make it so much worthwhile. So yes, spiritual sovereignty, and it's not a terrorist. Yeah, it is to the powers that were. God is forbid we start waking up, realizing what we want to do and take control of our lives and forgiving ourselves and others, and create a new earth where we don't live with the belief that there's not enough abundance in the world, where we believe that we have to go to war all the time and murder other people because they have different beliefs or they have some resources that we don't have in our country. We're not going to be able to feed our children. Where we believe that we need to be on fossil fuels or pay all the time for food and roof over our head and to earn a living in the world. We're the only species on this planet that suffers the delusion that we have to pay money to live on this planet. These are just bits and pieces. So by reclaiming our spiritual sovereignty and doing our shadow work, we stop being in fear and giving all our power away. Then we can't be emotionally blackmailed, and we live an authentic life regardless of how it plays out. But the irony is, the more you pick up your heart and go forward through all those things you don't want to look at that you believe previously were you, when they're just aspects of the character you chose to work with this time, it frees you up, and you have so much more power. And there's nothing you can't do, nothing, and it's really empowering to do so. So it's just so important now on these times because everything's fallen apart. I don't waste too much time talking about what's fallen apart anymore. Everyone pretty much knows that most of our healthcare systems, except for trauma, really like vaccines and pharmaceuticals, have nothing to do with health. You know, we don't catch disease. You know, we create it by what we put in our minds and our hearts and what we tell ourselves. And so shadow work is going to be the big healing. And like you were saying before we got on camera, most healers are shadow workers of some kind. It's just how they're addressing it. And what I do with it is I bring people into it, because guilt and shame are the two lowest vibrations on the Hawkins consciousness scale. And they keep us sick, and they keep us with small minds and small hearts. And they keep us hurting others because we hurt and we don't know how to get out of the cycle. And this is what's really important. So a lot of people don't have respect for shadow workers because they think all we do is focus on the dark, or all we want to do is tell people that what's wrong with them to make them scared and keep them in their place. And nothing could be further from the truth. Those are the ambulance chasers that are telling you, you know, this is your gene. This is your genome for your lifetime. This is, you have a predisposition for cancer. You're going to get cancer. You're going to die. The best thing you can do is, you know, give away your life to mortgage and taxes and school loans, and hopefully squeeze in a little joy somewhere along the line. And you'll get your 2.5 weeks holidays, and we'll bury you if you wish, or we'll burn you at the end. And we're going to steal every ounce of life force we can until then. So I'm for bringing back spiritual sovereignty and doing the shadow work. And I never would have thought this is what I was going to do. I wanted to, I wanted to play with dolphins and kittens and be a vet when I was little. And then I wanted to be an actress, and, you know, and little did I know I would be spending the vast amount of my years from 40 something on talking about all that's wrong with the world in order to fix it, and give up everything I've owned, known, and loved many times over to help wake everyone else to do so. But
yeah,
that's what it's been.
I think the important thing is, isn't it? It's get out of your comfort zone. And people's reaction was, well, how do you do that? Well, actually, you get out of your comfort zone by stepping back into yourself, by finding who you are, by connecting with all those aspects of you. And yes, it is really, really important to learn to love yourself. You can't truly love others.
To learn?
You have to remember how to love yourself. Yes.
Remember.
Yes.
Oh, remember.
Yes.
Rewire. I could use rewire because it is programming to not love ourselves. But that's all we are. That's who our mortal consciousness is. It's love. It's Ananda. It's bliss. And we choose to forget all that to have this dramatic experience in a movie down here. And it's not that this isn't real. It's a very real experience. It's very virtual. Believe me, this eczema has been itching, and my skin has been, you know, screaming from anger and injustice and a lot of things that I've been purging to a much deeper level. But yes, there's no way through this, buy a pill or, you know, do one ayahuasca once and it's all good even. No, you got to go through the muck. But when you look at it, then the muck falls away, and it's just part of your story. And it's a funny one because we can tell ourselves new stories about who we are and what we are. And that's the same true for the collective. It's not history, and it's not even going back to her story. It's about reclaiming our story and what the truth of who we are as individuals, as a race on this planet, and as a sentient race in the multiverse at these very poignantly transformative times.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose I use that word learn because we talk about going to school to learn, we go to college to learn, etc., etc. And so, and we keep saying we're here to learn. But the truth of the matter is, remember is right. We have forgotten everything we know, and we know everything. Um, and we are here to help ourselves to remember all of that. So to remember the love that we are, that we come from, the pure unconditional love that is who we are. We are here to allow ourselves to forgive ourselves. And in the forgiveness of self, we bring peace to self. And we don't have to forgive others, because the forgiveness of self is for the reaction we had to what happened. Hang on, but that was somebody else's stuff. So why did we react in the way we did? Forgive ourselves for the reaction. And there isn't actually any need to forgive anybody else, because they're going through their own stuff. And the essential thing to do is to help them to remember how to forgive themselves.
Exactly.
And all the experiences we have had, as I say to the people that I work with, it's just like, okay, those people that have done those things to you, do you know about their life? Because in those cases, it's things like parents.
Right.
It's do you know what their life was like as a child? Do you know what their parents' life was a child? Is you go back to the ancestry? It's just an ongoing from generation to generation. The mother treats the daughter this way, so the daughter then treats her daughter that way, and it just goes up through the generations, and the cycle's to be broken.
Yes.
And it is, so many people are breaking the cycle in these generations that we're living in now. And it is wonderful. My mother used to treat me like that, and I always swore I would be the total opposite. Yeah, I'm not saying that about my mum, but yeah.
You see my smile because I recall the exact moment when I heard my mother's voice come out of my mouth after my son. He was on the autism spectrum. He nursed every 2 hours. I was the chef of a raw restaurant in Sedona and got very little sleep, and he wouldn't sleep and he wouldn't go back to bed. And I remember holding him and going, I'm like, why won't you go to sleep? And I'm like, oh my God. And I slid down the wall crying and hugged him and said, I'm never doing that to you. I'm never going to do what she did to me. And then even later on, the one thing I was like, how I started to be able to forgive my mother, even before the latest chapter with my Kundalini when she stole my son, was because I had compassion for how she was raised. And she told me about her mother. But the thing is we always do better than our mothers before. But yes, it's a multi-generational thing that we have to catch ourselves and choose to do something differently. And my mother was a great mom because she told me exactly what not to do the vast majority of the time. I will give her credit. I know how to clean really well, because when she didn't know how to deal with her emotions, all she'd do was clean. Yes, I have traumatic memories of my childhood as a result of why I know how to clean well. But she couldn't give what she didn't have. But then at the same time, I've come to a new level with that because I gave to my son what I didn't have. So we got to stop telling ourselves, oh, well, at least I did better. Yes, you can. But if there's anything in this world, any rule, any law that only has validity in my book and in the multiverse, as far as I'm concerned, is to do no harm. And do not harm another person, and do not harm their property. And that includes their feelings. My son at 6 reamed my mother for judging me. I call her Judge Judy, going up one side of me and down the other, for raising him to have an open heart and telling him the truth and not telling him the lies that all the parents do, and that the world's all perfect and okay all the time. No, I wasn't sitting there showing him, police SWAT teams murder children or anything, but I raised him to have his own mind and a heart and ask good questions. And, don't use your words, Grandma, to hurt Mommy's feelings. And it's really been, I'll never forget the very first moment over a lawyer's desk where I said to my parents, I'm ending this multi-generational familial abuse now. I'm speaking the truth about all the things you don't ever want to talk about and refuse to admit that ever happened. And we're going to end this. And I'm not doing to my son what you did to me. And as a parent, we all have a right to make our choices for our children. And we make good ones and we make bad ones, and we learn as we go, and hopefully we get better along the way. But the truth of the matter is the kids are here to teach us, and hopefully we don't mess them up too much along the way. And if we're really good and lucky, we help them find their gifts, and we teach them that they're a whole soul and that they can do anything. The whole thing is to help them find what they do good and make them love them. We just need to love them well and teach them how to make good choices. That's all we're here for. And I was very lucky to have a very inspiring child who taught me to do that, so that even when he was ripped away from me, I still love him so much, and he caused such a healing in me that I was able to overlook and go deeper. I don't wish my path on anyone, but I am one of many, many, many millions of parents in this world that have had their children stolen through various systems, generally at child services or protective services, which is really the human trafficking of our children by the governments. And also a wonderful social engineering tool, because broken people can't see on the end of their nose. And they're usually drugged. Never mind pay attention what's going on in the world or society. And they take orders really well. So that's why I have my path. And it's why we all have our path, that what we need to go through. And I actually now I was laughing with my landlady where I am in Glastonbury last night, because both of us have had some extreme challenges, as we all are right now on this planet. It doesn't matter who you are. Everybody's got something on their plate, even if it's just dealing with your clients as a healer, because clients are having a really hard time now. And that is the old quote from Mother Teresa. I'm sure you love this one, Sara. God never gives us more than we can handle in any one day. I just wish sometimes he didn't trust me so much, or she didn't trust me so much. It doesn't trust me so much.
Yeah.
But that's really what we're dealing with. But you're right. It's all handed down to us. I mean, the way we were raised, the way I was raised as a kid, you'd be in jail now. Belts at the table, being sent to bed without dinner. I mean, smacked across the face, punched across the living room. Heck, I tried to run away from my parents and get DCF to make me a ward of the court to get away from them, because my father was a severe alcoholic, and all they did was fight, and the emotional abuse was, traumatic as a child. But no, back then and still now, they make the kids that are getting abused stay in the family, and the parents that are going against, let me homeschool my child and let him have a mind of his own, and let him find what his heart's desire is. Let me not have to vaccinate him and poison him and rob him of life and maybe cause him a severe injury of some kind. Let me do what's good for my kid. Let me stand up and have a heart and a mind of my own, and the courage to raise my family the way I believe is best for the next 7 generations. You're going to have some issues, with your kids, if not with other parents in the school. They've really got us pit against each other pretty well. So it's really important to forgive ourselves, because when you're all good with yourself and your decisions and your beliefs and your choices, you don't feel the need to fight them to the end, to defend them, because you're all good. You know it. You don't need to prove it to yourself. And you also will allow others their choices. And if you perceive that they're harming themselves, their loved ones, or others, you're not afraid to speak your truth, to give them that information, knowing that you're going to be a social pariah or attacked, most likely because you challenge their beliefs. You will offer them the opportunity, but let go of the outcome, but still protect your own. And this is what's so important right now. I mean, more so. It's been important for many years, but I mean, they're slapping down the dragon of control, and the patriarchal structure and the dark era that we're coming out of is, its head's cut off, but its tail's lashing around, and its jaws are still clamping on anyone or anything that will allow itself to be drawn in by it. So it's really important to take our shadow work seriously now. Yeah, and I can smile with it, because laughter's big medicine, and it's the only way you get through. But it's a serious thing. It's not this woo-woo, oh, let's meditate, light a candle, and say some mantra, and all's good. That is not what spiritual warriorship, shadow work, or healing is about. It's an aspect of it, and it's one lovely, nice one when you can fill yourself back up. And sometimes it gets you through. But that's not what healing's about. Healing's not this nice, easy, clean, peaceful. Yeah. But
No, there's definitely nothing yeah, sort of peaceful about it. But going back to the not hurting anyone, you
yeah.
have to include yourself in that. You absolutely have to include yourself. And the one thing I've come to realize is do what is right for you, and it is right for the other people involved. They may not appreciate it very much. They may think that you're being selfish, that you're going against them, you're not helping them. But the truth of the matter is, we all have to do stuff for ourselves. It is not about everybody doing anything for us. Because how do we learn and grow and remember unless we are? I can't heal you, you can't heal me. We're here to offer tools that empower that self-healing
mm-hmm.
because the only person who can heal us is us. So you and I and many, 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 many more are here to support people in their own healing. But if we say, but I can't do that, or I've got to do that because otherwise if I don't do that, that'll hurt somebody. But if that's to a detriment to you and hurts you, that actually by being honest with yourself, being true to yourself, and I know that person may not like the no, but actually it is the greatest gift you can give them. It isn't hurting them. The yes could be a greater hurt to them
Absolutely.
than the no.
Called the power of saying no. Just on that same thing. And that right there, Sara, you just perfectly expressed how we walk in our spiritual sovereignty. It's doing what's right for you. There's a belief that it has to, yes, I always take into consideration the good of the whole as well, but we have to survive first in order to be a part of the whole. So, and as a healer even, and a lot of empaths that don't even have the role as a healer, I mean, we're all healers of ourselves, but a lot of empaths are just here to reflect. It's really important that we, more than anything else, have that space where we don't serve from an empty well. If we're not filled up ourselves, we cannot give to anyone else. And we get stuck in the rut of service. I've done this a few rounds, where we give, and never receive. Oh my goddess, that was part of I thought I had that down. I really did. I thought I was doing really good with being able to receive and only giving enough. And the universe was like, you got to take it. You got to make space for other people to give. You got to receive. And if you're not going to do it, we're going to take everything away again. So you have to receive. You don't have an option to do anything but receive. Giving is not going to be an option for a short period of time. So, there is really no good or bad in either end you're on. It's out of balance. But that is spiritual sovereignty. Doing what's good for you and what resonates right for you. As a parent, you have to do it for your child as well. And as I said, for your immediate family or your family, if you're like me, I'm estranged from most of my family, thank goddess. So literally, I had chosen not to be around most of my family prior to what ensued, which was part of the issue. Because when my son walked out of my mother's house on her 60th birthday after dinner, and the first words out of his mouth are, "Mommy, why did Grandma and Grandpa hate you so much?" I realized that my lofty ideas of my amazing crystal child being gifted to our family to bring healing may not be so good for him yet. And that I was not going to teach him that we have to subject ourselves to abuse and awful behavior, especially by adults who should know better, that make us feel awful or harm us just because they're relatives, And that's true for everyone. And it pisses a lot of people off when you take your power back, especially because in dysfunctional families, it's all like this wheel and this cog and everybody plays a role. And when you take your gear shift out, everybody else falls apart. And if you weren't already the black sheep, now everyone's problem is yours. And that's just proof positive that I've done it exactly right. My son still gets to work on healing the family, just from a different angle. He's working on his grandmother. Someone on this planet is, if he can't open her heart, I've given it my all. The two of us together, maybe. We'll see. We'll see if she's ready to go this lifetime or not. But it's
Oh,
definitely needing to take care of yourself first. That's not selfish.
no, it's not.
That's survival.
Yeah,
Even a
yeah,
mom on the plane, they tell you put your gas mask on before you put the oxygen tank on your kid.
yeah.
You know, very important. And that's another one of the traps you'll find in the guru. The guru, oh, only listen to my words, only follow my path. Give to the whole. Don't, service is an important path that a lot of new souls need to learn. I would say, at least human souls, not all souls, but it's a big lesson on the planet, and I think that's why they fell into it. We didn't get parasited by the energies that have parasited this planet accidentally. Humanity chose to give its power away and has had a powerful lesson, and why not to?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Folks, if you would, we are coming to a close. If you would like to connect with Lisa, the website is www.transcendence.us. That's it, isn't it? Have I missed anything off?
No, it's just DANCE, as in the dance of transcendence.
Dance.
It's not
Yeah,
spelled like normal transcendence with an E, but
yeah,
.us, as in unity consciousness without the letters in the middle.
yeah. I will put that under the video. So if you're watching it on YouTube, it'll be under the video so that you can connect with Lisa directly. Just before we close, is there anything finally that you would just like to share quickly with folks?
That the time to make your choice is pretty much over. Your soul has already chosen how you're going to play out what's coming in the next few months and years on this planet. So don't get all worked up that you have to do anything really, really drastic. But I do suggest that you at least Google shadow work and start doing it, because it's much easier to do it little by little than to do it in huge hunks when the universe forces you to. And you're given opportunities even then. The universe will give you the choice to take the specific example or experience, and you can say no, but it's always going to come back harder. So it's always better to go sooner rather than later and seek it out before it finds you. That would be what I would say. I also would like to say, if you would like to follow me from my website, I have links to my YouTube and my social media. Specifically, my radio show is called Consciousness Caffeine. It used to be live on Blog Talk, and I've started it up live again on YouTube. And there we have conversations on everything, our collective shadow work. And it's participatory, because I want everyone to show up to have their voice heard. And that would be all I have to share. Other than that, peace, love, abundance, and joy. Happy holidays, and time to get your goddess on. Very nice spiritual sovereignty.
Lisa, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us. There isn't actually a second program today. just to add to that, Thoughtful Nuggets and Pearls I'm doing with Jackie this evening at 7:30 p.m. UK time. And our topic actually probably fits very well with this, because it's called honesty.
Well, I'm about to do my radio show in an hour, and it's another synchronicity, because I have Jay Parker, who is the survivor and victim of an Illuminati satanic pedophile family, who's going to bring us into more of our shadow work about how all this stuff I was talking about, where the Pizzagate, Pedagate, and all that, and just the validity of it, and why we need to take a look at one of the darkest things. So we really need to be honest about ourselves, about what's going on in our environment, so we can change it. So yeah. Perfect. I like it. I'd rather be doing the honesty show, though, to be honest.
But seriously, so folks, join us. All the videos are up on the Gift of Healing TV website, on the catch-up pages as well. So do go and find loads of things. Do connect with Lisa. Do find what works for you, because that's why these programs are here. Find what works for you. That's what we're all here for at the end of the day. Find Conscious Caffeine with Lisa on YouTube as well. YouTube, Facebook. YouTube.
It's just Lisa Vunk is my YouTube channel.
Yeah. So just find all of that. Join us again. Join Lisa, join myself. It's been an absolute pleasure, Lisa. Thank you so very much. Much appreciated.
Well, Sarah Jane, us dragon riders.
Absolutely, yes. I'm sure the dragons have been with us today. I don't doubt it at all. They were invited in.
I kept the trolls. I told the trolls and the goblins in Glastonbury they had to stay on the other side of the tour.
Oh, no, they're friends of ours. They're friends. Don't ever worry about them. They're all friends.
I wasn't messing up with the technical stuff. We weren't going to have that today.
Folks, thank you so much for being with us. Lots of love to you all. Love, peace, and light to you all, folks. Namaste.